Right now, we're watching a massive and deeply historic shift unfold between the Middle East and South Asia. We are literally witnessing a tectonic shift, a geopolitical earthquake that is actively shattering alliances that have stood for decades. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the extraordinary events and these deeply covert alignments that are completely redrawing the map of the modern world. You see, these aren't just your standard diplomatic handshakes. This is a massive awakening that is permanently altering the global balance of power. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll logically trace this new power balance by looking at military alignment, Pakistan's isolation, India's consolidation, emerging flashpoints, and finally, the new intelligence matrix. At the very center of everything we're discussing today is something called the Abrahamic Security Axis. Historically speaking, this is an emerging, heavily layered defense and economic alliance between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and India. Now, what is absolutely crucial to understand here is that this is not born out of some newfound friendship or religious harmony. Not at all. It is a system built strictly on the unyielding foundation of pure survival and mutual interest. Centuries-old enmities are simply being erased right before our eyes, dictated purely by modern defense needs. Let's start with military alignment, specifically looking at Israel and the UAE. Listen, what we're seeing here goes way beyond just ink-on-paper treaties. We are looking at high-stakes, real-world technological and military deployments that would have been completely unthinkable just a few years ago. For the very first time, Israel has deployed its Iron Dome air defense system directly inside the UAE. But it doesn't stop with just the hardware. Israeli military personnel have actually been stationed there as operators. The historic, deeply rooted divides over the Palestinian issue, they've been completely sidelined for absolute survival. The unprecedented presence of Israeli military operators actively defending the Gulf marks a stunning new reality on the ground. And this military cooperation has already seen aggressive action. This quote from the UAE leadership, "We will not forget this help," is not just some standard diplomatic pleasantry. The context here is critical. According to source reports, Israeli air forces allegedly took action to destroy short-range missiles in southern Iran that were posing an immediate active threat to Gulf states. The imminent threat of Iranian missiles forced an alliance of necessity. And that brings us to the casualties of this new matrix. Let's look at Pakistan's sudden geopolitical isolation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that whenever you have a realignment of this magnitude, somebody inevitably loses their place. Recently, the UAE demanded the immediate return of a $3.5 billion loan from Pakistan. But as we analyze this, we have to realize this wasn't merely a financial transaction. Actually, it was more like a highly calculated strategic divorce. We're looking at a fundamental ideological collision here. Following attacks on their oil refineries, the Gulf has adopted a strict doctrine of absolute survival first. They demand definitive action and clear stances against Iranian proxy threats. There is no middle ground anymore. Pakistan, on the other hand, is trying to maintain a posture of legacy neutrality, attempting to act as a traditional neutral mediator. But to the Gulf, this attempt at mediation is no longer seen as a friendly gesture. It's viewed as an absolutely unbearable, heavily costly burden. Right in the middle of this crisis, Saudi Arabia did step in with a $3 billion financial lifeline to try and stabilize Pakistan. But a cold, hard analysis reveals that this money is definitely not a gift. It's a chain. It's really just a last-ditch effort to keep a sinking ship afloat. And the terms are implicitly clear. If Pakistan refuses to provide military aid against Iranian proxies, Riyadh will follow exactly in the UAE's footsteps and pull that support right out from under them. So who fills that void? That leads us to India's quiet consolidation. As the Gulf actively distances itself from historical allies, a massive opening has appeared. We've seen highly significant, under-the-radar meetings between India's National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, and top leadership in both Abu Dhabi and Riyadh. They are laying the groundwork for a profound intelligence and security partnership. Experts are actually calling this the Trust Triangle, or Trust Ki Takon. You can see how these three regions interlock to form a completely self-sufficient, highly effective regional machine. Israel acts as the defense provider, supplying the high-tech shield and systems. India steps in as the provider of massive labor forces and guaranteed food security. And the Gulf? They serve as the capital provider, fueling the entire system with wealth and energy. Every piece fits together perfectly. And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute internal security ruthlessness of this new alliance. The Gulf has made it abundantly clear that trade and security are their top priorities. Look at Bahrain's zero-tolerance policy. They revoked the citizenships of 69 individuals simply for showing sympathy toward Iran. There is literally zero room for political hypocrisy or dual loyalties in this new machine. Of course, when geopolitical tectonic plates shift like this, earthquakes follow. Let's look at the emerging fault lines. The friction from this new alignment is actively generating deeply concerning, volatile flashpoints. Let's walk through these three emerging threats sequentially. Step 1. Because of its isolation, Pakistan is being pushed toward a counterblock with China and Turkey. There's a deep fear that if India utilizes Israeli drone grids and surveillance in Kashmir, it will ignite a highly dangerous gray zone war. Step 2 is proxy war expansion, which we'll look at closer in a second. And step 3 is a massive shift in nuclear deterrence that changes the entire region's math. Looking at that second step, proxy war expansion, we really have to understand how Iran views this alliance. Iran perceives this tightening relationship between Israel, the UAE, and India as a deliberate Zionist-Hindutva encirclement. I want to be strictly clear here. This is impartially the perspective reported from Tehran, but it is this exact perception that threatens to trigger retaliatory proxy attacks. This drastically increases the risk of asymmetric warfare targeting vital maritime trade routes, international shipping lanes, and critical Gulf assets. And then we hit the third, and honestly perhaps the most profound flashpoint. For decades, Pakistan's nuclear capabilities were seen as a deterrent umbrella for the region. But the Gulf has realized that Pakistan will not provide that nuclear umbrella against Iran. Because of this, the Gulf now relies entirely on India for conventional defense and Israel for its missile shield. The chilling reality is that in the context of modern defense needs, the geopolitical market value of Pakistan's nuclear arsenal has essentially dropped to zero. Let's pull all of this together now and look at the new intelligence matrix. So, here is what you absolutely need to take away from this. This rapid, utterly ruthless transformation has forged a brand new intelligence and economic paradigm. The ultimate goal here, tied to mega projects like the IMEC corridor, is total regional economic dominance and the complete strategic neutralization of Iran. This is the brutal reality of the new global chessboard. You have the alliance, Israel, India, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia, locking down economic and defense dominance. You have the displaced, Pakistan, stripped of its traditional leverage and forced into a corner of defensive neutrality just to survive. And you have the aggressor, Iran, viewing the shield as an existential threat and deploying proxy wars in a desperate attempt to break it apart. As this Abrahamic shield snaps its final pieces into place, consolidating its unprecedented power, we are left staring at a deeply unsettling geopolitical reality. As these massive forces collide, we have to ask, what destruction will the displaced powers, and those regional forces whose very survival depends on breaking the shield, ultimately cause on the world's most sensitive fault lines? This is a reality that will echo for generations to come. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning and keep questioning.